The legend of the 10 rings has been told for thousands of years, and with each generation, the story continues to grow. At the center of this legend is a man. Some say he found the rings in a crater, others say it was in a tomb, but everyone knows that the rings granted him the powers of a god and the gift of eternal life. The man could have used these blessings for good, but instead, he chose to use them to obtain what he desired most, power. He waged wars against hundreds of peoples and used the powers of his rings to win battles alone. As the years passed, his popularity grew, and he managed to form his own army which, over the centuries, spread to all corners of the planet, moving in the shadows, toppling governments, and changing the course of history. Until, in 1996, after chasing money and power for 1,000 years, Wenwu discovered a new ambition. The man now wanted to find Talo, a hidden village full of mythical creatures and ancient magic, where people practiced the martial art of the gods. During his quest, in the middle of the forest, something strange happened. The trees began to move. Trying to avoid them, the driver loses control of the vehicle, and everyone falls into the abyss, except Wenwu, who managed to get out of the car in time. Hours later, while walking alone in the forest, he found the entrance to Talo. However, the village was guarded by a woman, Li, who ordered him to leave, but Wenwu decided to challenge her to a duel. At that moment, the warrior dodged her opponent's attacks and used all her martial arts knowledge to defeat him with light and precise blows. The woman dominated her opponent, and for the first time since acquiring the rings, Wenwu lost a fight. When attacked by the rings, Li managed to control them and used the magic of the objects to launch her enemy away. By a twist of fate, the two warriors fell in love and had 2 children. Li tells Xiangshi, her eldest son, that where she comes from, people are endowed with the magic of the Great Protector who manifests in the form of a dragon. When she left Talo, the woman lost her powers but was still a great fighter. She gives Shang a necklace and says that if he ever feels lost, that stone will help him find his way home. Almost 20 years have passed, and Shang wakes up for another day of work. Beside his bed, there is a postcard with a dragon drawn on the back. The sender's address was from Macau, China, and the boy currently lives in San Francisco. Shang works as a valet at a hotel along with his best friend, Katie. She is passionate about racing cars and takes every opportunity to go for a ride. Although he thinks it's not a good idea, Shang decides to accompany her on this adventure. At night, they go out with a couple of friends and tell Sue, John's girlfriend, how they met. The trio met in high school, and Sue is the only one with an established career. Although Katie graduated from college and Shang is fluent in 4 languages, they are happy in their jobs as valets. After dinner, they reflect on what Sue said and wonder if they should be more responsible. However, they decide to leave that for another time and spend the night drinking at a karaoke bar. The next morning, Shang goes to Katie's family house so they can go to work together. While the girl gets ready, Mrs. Chen invites the boy to have breakfast with them. Papa, Katie's grandmother, can't wait for the two to get married, but Shang assures her that they are just friends. On the bus to work, a man approaches and orders Shang to hand over his necklace. The boy backs away from him but is confronted by 2 other men. Katie tries to intervene and ends up with her head slammed against the window. Seeing his friend hurt, Shang becomes furious and goes after the guy who attacked her. The young man manages to take him down with a single punch and has to fight the other 2 men who continue trying to steal his necklace. At that moment, Katie is caught by surprise. Although she has been friends with Shang for over 10 years, she never imagined that the boy could be a martial arts master. After his partners are defeated, Razor enters the scene. The man had one of his hands cut off and, in its place, there is an extremely sharp sword that he uses to attack Shang. The young man manages to dodge his opponent's blows, but as a consequence, the bus ends up losing its brakes. Each time Razor misses an attack, he cuts everything he hits, while Shang uses whatever he can to defend himself. As the bus continues its path without brakes, the driver passes out after hitting his head on the steering wheel. As a result, Shang must take over the driving and is attacked while trying to avoid a traffic accident. When he was about to lose his head, Katie appears to save him and hits Razor on the head with a fire extinguisher. She takes the wheel while her friend continues the battle. The boy has the idea of luring his opponents to the second carriage, which is almost separating from the front of the vehicle. To do this, Shang instructs Katie to turn right when he gives the signal. The young man, after immobilizing Razor, orders the passengers to run to the front, and then he uses his blows to make the thugs retreat to the second carriage. At that moment, he pulls the cord that alerts the driver to stop the bus, and Katie understands that this is the signal for her to make the turn. The plan works, and Shang manages to get rid of Razor. The problem now is stopping the bus before it reaches the sea, which is just ahead. So, Katie intentionally crashes the bus into parked cars, and the impact makes the vehicle stop slowly. Despite the serious accident, all passengers escape without serious injuries, and Shang realizes that his necklace was stolen. A few seconds before being thrown onto the street along with the carriage, Razor managed to grab the jewel. Immediately, Shang runs to his apartment and starts packing to leave for Macau, where his sister must be. Since those men were after his necklace, they must now head to take the jewel that is with Xiaoling. Furious, Katie demands answers about what just happened, and Shang tells her that those men who attacked them on the bus were sent by his father. The boy is afraid that they will hurt his sister, so he needs to go to China, and Katie says she will accompany her friend on this trip. During his childhood, after Ying Li's death, when Wu began to train his son from dawn to dusk, Shang had to learn all possible ways to take a person's life. Xiaoling, being a girl, was forbidden to train, so she practiced martial arts in secret, watching her brother. At 14, Shang was already a great master and was sent by his father on his first mission. However, the boy couldn't take the life of the man who eliminated his mother, so he decided to flee. Since then, he never saw his father or sister again. When they arrive at the provided address, the duo is greeted by a security guard who takes them to a club. There, they are welcomed by a young man who claims to have become a big fan after watching the footage of what happened on the train. The guy takes Shang to a fighting ring where Wang duels with a green creature known as Abomination. When the creature goes to attack the wizard, Wang opens a portal, causing the Abomination to hit itself in the face, winning the fight. Seeing such brutality, Shang says he won't fight, but changes his mind when Zhang reveals that the winner will receive a large cash prize. However, upon entering the ring, the boy gets a big surprise and discovers that he will have to duel against his sister. The girl attacks him with all her rage, and Shang can barely dodge her blows. He knows that Xiaoling is angry for being abandoned and tries to calm her down, but she only stops attacking when she finds out why her brother went there, and even then she leaves the ring only after knocking him out. Minutes later, while recovering, Shang discovers that his sister is the owner of that club. The young woman remembers that before leaving, her brother promised that he would return in 3 days, but that never happened. Shang asks why Xiaoling sent him the postcard, but she assures him that she didn't send anything to her brother. At that moment, the club is invaded, and the girl escapes through a secret exit, leaving Shang and Katie behind. The boy then breaks the glass and escapes along the side of the building with his friend. Soon after, Wenwu's soldiers appear, and Shang decides to stay behind and fight them. His friend Katie runs to the elevator, and the young man duels with the skilled warriors while holding onto the bamboo columns. However, he ends up being knocked down and falls a few floors below. Meanwhile, one of the men finds Katie and tries to eliminate her. While dodging the attacks, the girl hangs onto one of the columns, and Shang needs to run to save her as the bamboo is about to break. On the way, he knocks down some soldiers and finally manages to hold his friend. At this point, one of the enemies uses his baton to electrocute him, and the boy accidentally lets go of Katie's hand. During the fall, she is saved by Xiaoling, who appears to help her brother. Together, they eliminate all the enemies, and when they think the battle is over, the death dealer appears and steals the girl's necklace. Shang runs to catch up with him and knocks the ninja down before he can escape. They exchange a few blows, and the boy manages to take the knife from the enemy's hands. Remembering all the terrible moments he went through at the hands of that guy, who was his trainer many years ago, Shang decides to eliminate him, but is stopped by his father, who arrives just in time. Even so, the man is proud of his son's performance and says he missed him. Katie and the two siblings are taken by helicopter to Wenwu's hideout, and the man is excited to announce his son's return. Xiaoling, as usual, is ignored by her father, who asks the guards to take the girls to the room where they will stay. Meanwhile, Shang visits the room where he used to train and remembers the time when his fists would be bloodied from punching wood so much. During dinner, he asks how his father found him, and Wenwu reveals that all this time, he always knew where Shang and Xiaoling were. The man tries to convince his son to take his place in command by his side, but the boy refuses. At that moment, Wenwu recalls that when he met Ying Li, everything he thought about the world changed. She awakened a part of him that he didn't even know existed. The woman gave up everything to be with her beloved, and then he decided to do the same for her. Together, they built a beautiful family and were very happy. After his wife's death, Wenwu felt lost for many years, but now he found a way to fix it. When his children ran away, the man delved into studies and researched everything about the village of Talo. Thus, he discovered the existence of a gate embedded in the mountains and claims that Ingli is trapped there, waiting to be rescued. He knows this because recently the woman spoke to him and said she needed his help to be saved from her own people. Wanwu says that after they got married, Ingli wanted them to live in Talo. She asked the elders for permission, but they said Wanwu was not worthy of living there. Therefore, he believes his wife is imprisoned and being punished for abandoning her people. After saying these words, Wanwu takes the pendants his wife gave to their children and places them in a fountain in the dragon's eyes. At that moment, the stones glow, and water starts gushing from the statue, forming a maze. Wanwu says that the passage to Talo is protected by a living maze, but there is a direct path through the forest that opens only once a year. To get through there, one must know the route and the time it opens, and now Wanwu knows everything he needs. In 3 days, he intends to invade Talo and rescue his wife. For this, he is willing to destroy the entire village. Shang tries to argue with his father and show how absurd this idea is, but he is attacked, and his sister suffers the same fate when she tries to help him. Wanwu orders his guards to imprison them. When they arrive in prison, Katie tries to digest everything that happened. Shang says they need to reach Talo before his father, otherwise, he will destroy everything that is left of their mother's family. They hear a strange noise coming from the next cell and go there to find out what it is. At that moment, the trio meets Trevor Slattery, who is an actor from Liverpool. Suddenly, Morris appears, and Trevor reveals that the little creature grew up with Shang's mother in Talo. The boy says he needs to get to the village, and the little monster says he can guide them there through the forest maze. Upon hearing this, Xiaoling breaks down the wall and informs them that her father has a system of tunnels spread throughout the complex, which allowed her to escape the first time. Arriving at the garage, Katie takes the wheel and must escape the guards. The two siblings hang out the window to knock down the guards, and Shang manages to capture one of them. The group uses the guard's fingerprint to open the gate and escape. Then, they close the exit to prevent anyone from following them. When they reach the forest, Morris gives the coordinates, and Katie speeds up the car as the trees are closing right behind them. Fortunately, the girl is an excellent getaway driver and manages to get through before the vehicle is engulfed. Now, they just need to cross the waterfall to reach the tunnel that leads directly to the island. Everyone is surprised to find a place that looks like it came out of a fairy tale, where flaming birds and nine-tailed foxes live. Through the car window, Morris spots some of his friends, and Katie has to brake quickly because while she was distracted observing all the beauty around her, she almost ran over a Qilin, a mythological creature with the body of a horse and the head of a dragon. After a few minutes of travel, the group finally finds the village inhabitants, who are protected by giant lions. The two siblings get out of the car and introduce themselves as the children of Ingli, but Guangbo orders them to leave. The army prepares to attack them but returns to their positions when Ingnan appears. The woman is Ingli's sister and has just met her nephews. Sheng informs them that they don't have much time because their father intends to invade Talo in a few days. Ingnan then tells them that her people are responsible for guarding the Dark Gate, and their mission is to protect humans from all the evil that is trapped behind it. Xiaoling reveals that her father intends to open this gate, believing his wife is trapped inside. The woman explains that thousands of years ago, her people lived in peace and prosperity until the day of the Dweller in Darkness attack. The creature arrived with its army, devouring all the souls in its path and becoming more powerful with each elimination. They grew stronger, so the greatest warriors of Talo united to fight against their enemies, but even the most powerful men were no match for those monsters. During the battle, the Great Protector appeared, and together they imprisoned the Dweller in Darkness and its army behind the Dark Gate. Since then, the people of Talo have guarded this gate. They create new weapons made of dragon scales as they prepare for the upcoming war. Ingnan says Wenwu was not the first to try to open the Dark Gate. Until that moment, everyone who tried has failed, and the most interesting thing is that they all had one thing in common: they were tempted by a voice on the other side that promised to fulfill their greatest desires. Katie is also summoned to defend the village and must train with a bow and arrow to be fit for battle. While visiting their mother's grave, the two siblings receive their warrior uniforms. Then, Xiaoling goes to train in the martial arts style she developed while watching her brother's training. Shang goes to his aunt and asks her to teach him his mother's fighting technique because she was the only one who managed to defeat his father. The woman shows him how to start practicing, and Shang quickly gets the hang of it. He tries to defeat his aunt with the fighting style he learned from his father, but he is easily defeated. That night, he remembers his mother's teachings and realizes he will have to use the technique he learned from her if he wants to have a chance of saving the village. The boy recalls that one night while they were training, some men appeared to take revenge on Wenwu. Ingli tried to convince them to leave, stating that her husband was a new man, but they were determined to get their revenge. The woman then asked her children to hide in the house and prepared to fight those men. Ingli was a great fighter and was confident she could defeat them, but new henchmen appeared, and Shang saw his mother being beaten to death. When Wenwu arrived home, he found his wife's body on the ground and decided to put the rings back on to get his revenge. The man took his son to a bar where most of those cowards were gathered. The boy identified the men who were there the day his mother died, and Wenwu did the rest. Shang was paralyzed with fear witnessing such brutality but learned to do the same as his father in the following years. When Wenwu found the man responsible for his wife's death, he sent the boy to eliminate him. During the night, while they talk, Shang tells Katie that he lied to her. He says he didn't complete the mission given by his father, and that's why he ran away, but the truth is he killed the man and regretted it, so he decided to disappear and start a new life. Katie tries to reassure her friend, and Shang declares that now he intends to eliminate his father. According to him, Wenwu was responsible for taking his mother's life, and he cannot allow the man to destroy his home now. On the day of the passage opening, the warriors of Talo prepare for battle, but Guangbo does not allow Katie to use the bow and arrow, claiming she is not ready yet. In a few minutes, Wenwu arrives with his men, and Yingnan tries to convince him that his wife was never imprisoned in that village. The dialogue is in vain, and the two groups begin a great war. During the battle, Shang sees his father walking towards his mother's tomb and goes after him. The boy uses his dragon scale staff to attack him but ends up being knocked down. His father blames him for standing still and watching his mother being attacked, but Shang was just a child at the time, and there was nothing he could do. The attacks continue, and the boy must use his staff to defend himself from the rings. Furious, he directs all his anger to attack his father and manages to knock him down. When Shang confronts him and states that his mother's death is his fault, Wenwu is filled with rage and uses his rings to launch a brutal attack that throws the boy into the river. Looking at the gate, he hears his wife's voice and flies to save her. The man uses all his power to punch those scales in an attempt to free his beloved. As the cracks appear, dark creatures break free and invade the battlefield, stealing the souls of the warriors. Seeing their comrades being eliminated by these monsters, Wenwu's warriors decide to join forces with the people of Talo to destroy such creatures. The purpose of these beasts is to steal souls to feed the dweller in darkness. If it becomes strong enough, it will be able to break through the gate, and all humanity will be in danger. Realizing that the situation is worsening, Katie decides to help, despite Guangbo stating that she is not ready. At the bottom of the lake, Shang wakes up and is surprised by the presence of a dragon. The Great Protector emerges and devours much of the soul-sucking army. The warriors use weapons made of dragon scales to try to destroy the rest, but many end up being eliminated in the process. To prevent the great threat from being released, Shang goes to his father to try to convince him that his mother is not trapped inside. However, the man is determined to break down the gate, and the boy must use the fighting style he learned from his mother to stop him. A fight between father and son begins, with both showing their combat skills. Wenwu decides to use 5 of the rings to attack his son, but the young man manages to control them and uses them to block his father's attacks and counterattack. His father, already enraged, decides to send another even more deadly attack. However, during the battle, Shang manages to take possession of all the rings, but instead of using them to eliminate his opponent, the young man throws the jewels to the ground. He reminds Wenwu that his family still exists and pleads with him to stop that foolish mission and accept that his wife is gone. At that moment, a terrifying and gigantic demonic creature breaks through the gate and escapes, leaving everyone worried. The monster attacks Shang, but his father uses the rings to save him. After being captured, Wenwu hands the jewels to his son and has his soul sucked. Just when the boy is about to be attacked, the Great Protector appears and drives away the fearsome monster. The creature then retreats and flies towards the village. Shang joins his sister and climbs onto the dragon, which uses water chains to bind the demon. However, by feeding on new souls, the creature becomes even stronger and breaks free. It grabs the dragon and starts sucking its soul. Guangbo intends to shoot the monster in the throat but is quickly attacked and has his soul stolen. While it sucks the soul of the Great Protector, the beast grabs Xiaoling, and her brother must use the rings to save her. At the moment when the monstrous being is about to take the dragon's soul, which would make it invincible, Katie shoots an arrow and hits its neck. At that moment, the dragon returns to the water and manages to trap the enemy again. Then, Shang seizes the opportunity to attack it with his rings and uses his new powers to explode the creature's chest, also eliminating its entire army. Upon returning to the village, the boy is dismayed to see dozens of bodies scattered on the ground but relieved to know that his friend is okay. That night, the survivors pay a beautiful tribute to all who gave their lives to protect the village. Sometime later, Shang and Katie meet again with their friends and recount the challenges they faced in Talo. Obviously, Sue and John do not believe a word until Wong appears in the middle of the restaurant through a portal and summons the duo to accompany him. They then say goodbye to their friends and follow the sorcerer, leaving all the customers in the establishment confused. Finally, Xiaoling has taken the position of leader of her father's army and now commands it as his successor.